My name is Olena Kovalenko. I'm 32 years old. And on the evening of July 28th, 2025, while folding laundry in a quiet little house in Ohio, my heart stopped beating, and I died. I wasn't a soldier. I wasn't a politician. I was a refugee. Just a few years ago, I was an architect in Kharkiv, Ukraine. My husband, Maxim, and I had just finished renovating our small apartment. Our daughter, Yana, who was 4 at the time, had her own room painted like a field of sunflowers. I remember the smell of the paint, the sound of her laughter echoing in the empty rooms. That was my life. Normal life. Bills, dinner plans, worrying if Yana would eat her vegetables. Then, the world fell apart. When the invasion started, Maxim stayed to fight. I took Yana and ran. We spent weeks in basements, on crowded trains, hearing sounds no child should ever hear. We ended up here in America with a wonderful host family, the Millers. They gave us a safe room and warm food. I found a job cleaning houses. I was grateful, so incredibly grateful. But every single night, my heart was a cold, heavy stone in my chest. Every news report, every phone call I missed from Maxim, it was like a little piece of me died each day. My prayers felt weak, like whispers lost in a hurricane. I was just so tired. That evening, I was pulling one of Yana's little t-shirts from the dryer. It still smelled like the sunshine from outside. I remembered my own mother's hands, how they'd fold laundry with such care. A sharp pain, like a hot knife, went through my chest. It was so fast, so sudden, I didn't even have time to scream. All I thought was, Maxim, then blackness. But it wasn't an empty blackness. It was just a pause, a silence. The pain was gone. The weight in my chest was gone. The constant, buzzing fear I'd lived with for years, it just evaporated. I opened my eyes. Not my real eyes, but some other way of seeing. I was floating near the ceiling of the laundry room. I could see my body on the floor, crumpled between the washer and a basket of clean towels. It looked so small, so fragile. I felt a strange detachment, like watching a movie. I saw Lisa, my host mom, run into the room. She screamed my name. Her husband, Brandon, started doing CPR. I saw it all, but I couldn't feel the panic. There was no fear. It was the strangest peace I have ever known. I saw my little Yana peeking from around the doorframe, her eyes wide with terror. A wave of love, so powerful it was almost painful, washed over me. My baby. I wanted to rush to her, to tell her it was okay, but I couldn't. I was just watching. Then a light began to fill the room. It wasn't like a light bulb turning on. It was more like the sun was rising right there in the hallway. It was warm, golden, and it pulled at me gently. The laundry room Lisa, my own body, it all started to fade away, like a dream you can't hold on to when you wake up. I let go. I felt myself being drawn into this beautiful, all-consuming light. I wasn't floating anymore. I was standing. There was no floor, no walls, no sky, just this endless warmth and light. And in the center of it, a figure stood. It was Jesus. I know people have tried to describe him for 2,000 years, but words are such small, clumsy tools. He wasn't like any painting I'd ever seen. The light didn't shine on him. The light came from him. It was woven into his being. His face, I can't tell you the color of his eyes, but I can tell you what was in them. He looked at me, and I felt like he had been watching me my entire life. Not in a judging way. He saw every mistake I ever made, every selfish thought, every time my faith flickered and went out, and he looked at me with a love so pure, so absolute, it broke me. Tears filled my eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of release. Every wall I had built around my heart, every bit of pain and anger and grief from the war, it all just melted away under his gaze. I didn't have to explain anything. He already knew. He knew my exhaustion. He knew my fear for Maxim. He knew the guilt I carried for leaving my home. He didn't speak with a voice that travels through the air. His words were just there inside my soul. They felt like truth itself. "Peace, my child," he said. "You are home." I fell to my knees. I couldn't speak. I just wept. I had felt so alone for so long, and in that moment I was more known and more loved than I could have ever imagined. He let me cry. He just stood there, his presence a blanket of perfect peace, until my spirit grew quiet. He reached out his hand and a scene appeared before us. I saw my husband, Maxim. He was in a trench, mud caked on his face, his uniform torn. He was holding a small worn photo of me and Yana. His lips were moving. He wasn't saying anything out loud, just whispering my name over and over. A prayer. Jesus looked at me. I hear every one, he said. Not a single one is lost. Then the scene shifted. My heart grew heavy again, because I knew what he was about to show me was not for my comfort. It was for the world. You have seen the war of men, he said, his voice now filled with a deep holy sorrow. Now I will show you the war behind the war. The light around us dimmed, and I saw a room. A grand, opulent room with dark wood and heavy curtains. I recognized it from the news. 2 men were sitting at a long, polished table. It was Putin and the American president, Donald Trump. They were talking about the ceasefire, the one the whole world was praying for. But what I saw next is what I can never forget. Behind Putin there was a shadow. It wasn't just a physical shadow from the lights in the room, it was a living thing. A being of immense pride and darkness. It didn't have horns or a pitchfork. That's a human invention. It was a being made of pure arrogance. It leaned close to Putin's ear, and though I couldn't hear its words, I could feel what it was whispering. It showed him visions of a restored Russian empire, greater than ever before. It fed his ego, telling him he was a man of destiny, a historic figure chosen to restore glory. It twisted his sense of history, his sense of faith, making him believe his brutal actions were somehow righteous, a holy calling. I saw that the ceasefire, to him, was not about peace. It was a strategy, a pause. The dark being was whispering to him, "They are weak, their unity is a lie, they will grow tired. Let them celebrate their peace. Use this time to rearm, to gather strength, and then, when they are sleeping, you will finish what you started. You will take it all." My soul trembled. The deception was so thick, so powerful. Then I looked at President Trump. Behind him, there wasn't one single dark entity. It was different. It was like a cloud of smaller, chattering spirits. Spirits of flattery, spirits of ego, spirits of confusion. They were all whispering to him at once. "You are the great deal maker. Only you can do this. They will build statues of you. You are the peacemaker the world has been waiting for." He believed he was controlling the situation. He believed he was making the deal of a lifetime, securing his legacy. But he couldn't see what was really in the room. He was shaking hands with a man, but he was making a deal with the prideful spirit that was pulling his strings. He was blind to the deep, spiritual poison that was driving his opponent. He saw a political rival, not a vessel for a much older, darker ambition. Jesus' voice cut through the vision. Men debate politics and borders and economies, but they are fighting shadows. The enemy's greatest weapon is not the bomb. It is the whisper of pride in the ear of a powerful man, the whisper that says, "You are a god." The scene then zoomed out, and my breath caught in my throat. I saw my homeland, Ukraine, but I saw it with spiritual eyes. Over the land, a great battle was raging in the heavens. I saw legions of dark, shadowy beings, like a storm cloud of locusts, trying to descend, to cover the land in hopelessness and despair. But they couldn't, because I saw angels, bright, glorious, warrior angels. They stood shoulder to shoulder, their swords of light holding back the darkness. They were forming a shield, a wall of divine protection over my country, and I saw what gave them their strength. From all over the world, little lights began to rise up toward the heavens. They looked like tiny golden threads. I saw one rise from a small church in Oklahoma, where a group of old women were on their knees. I saw one rise from a college dorm room in Brazil, where a young student was praying before bed. I saw one rise from a mother in Poland, crying as she packed supplies. I saw one rise from Maxim in that muddy trench. Every prayer, every single heartfelt prayer was a thread of light that went directly to these warrior angels. It strengthened their shields, it sharpened their swords. Jesus showed me a specific moment. A Russian missile was launched. I saw the dark spirits guiding it, trying to direct it toward a hospital full of children. But then a flood of prayer, a wave of those golden threads, came from a church service that was happening at that exact moment in California. The prayers hit the angelic shield. The shield flared with brilliant light, and I saw the missile's guidance system suddenly fritz out. It veered off course and exploded harmlessly in an empty field. The people in that church would never know what they had done. They just thought they were having their usual Sunday prayer meeting. They had no idea that their combined faith, their focused prayers, had just saved hundreds of lives, thousands of miles away. This, Jesus said, his voice ringing with power, is how the war is won, not in the grand halls of men, but in the humble closets of prayer. The enemy wants you to watch the news and feel hopeless. He wants you to trust in treaties and politicians, because he knows that if my people truly understood the power of their prayers, his kingdom of shadows would fall apart. I saw it all so clearly, the news reports, the political analysis, the talk of troop movements. It was all just the surface level. The real fight, the one that truly mattered, was invisible to our eyes. The vision faded. We were back in the endless, peaceful light. I looked at Jesus, my heart overflowing with both awe and a deep sadness for the world. "I want to stay," I whispered. "Please, I don't want to go back. It's too hard. I'm too tired." He smiled, a gentle, understanding smile. It wasn't a smile of dismissal, but of deep compassion. He knew my pain. "My child, your daughter needs you," he said softly. "Maxim needs the hope of your survival. But more than that, you have a story to tell. They are putting their faith in men. They celebrate a false peace. You must go back and tell them what you saw. Tell them not to grow weary. Tell them to pray. Not weak, scattered prayers, but focused, believing prayers. Tell them their prayers are the real weapons of this war. That is your work now." The thought of leaving him, of leaving this perfect peace, was the most painful thing I have ever felt. It was like tearing a part of my own soul away. I wanted to argue, to beg, but I looked in his eyes and I knew. My mission wasn't over. "I will," I promised, tears streaming down my face. He put his hand on my head, and a wave of his life, his strength, his love poured into me. "I am with you always," he said. And then I felt myself falling, pulled back down, away from the light, back into the cold and the dark. A violent jolt shot through me. My eyes flew open. The light was blinding. A sterile white ceiling, a beeping sound, fast and loud. A man in blue scrubs was leaning over me, his eyes wide. "We've got her, we've got a pulse," someone shouted. My chest felt like it had been kicked by a horse. I gasped for air, a deep, ragged breath that burned my lungs. I tried to sit up, but hands pushed me gently back down. Ma'am, calm down. You're in the hospital. You had a massive heart attack," a kind voice said. I looked around, confused. I saw Lisa, my host mom, in the corner of the room, her face pale, her hands covering her mouth as she sobbed in relief. My mind was reeling. The laundry room, the light, Jesus, the vision. Was it real? The first word I managed to speak was a hoarse whisper. "Yana?" "She's safe," Lisa choked out, rushing to my side. "She's with Brandon's parents. Oh, Olena, we thought we lost you." A doctor came in later. He had a file in his hands and a look of complete disbelief on his face. "Mrs. Kovalenko," he started, clearing his throat. "I'm Dr. Matthews. I need you to understand what happened. Your heart stopped. You had no pulse, no brain activity for 23 minutes. By all medical standards, you should not be here. And even if you were, you should have severe, catastrophic brain damage. But your scans are perfectly normal. We have no medical explanation for this." I just looked at him and nodded. A quiet tear rolled down my cheek. I had an explanation. I had seen the war behind the war, and I had been sent back to tell the story. So that is my message to you. I'm not a theologian. I am not a political expert. I'm a mother from Kharkiv who was allowed to see behind the curtain for 23 minutes. You will see the news. You will hear about the meetings, the handshakes, the deadlines, and the temporary peace, and the world will tell you to put your hope in those things. But I am here to tell you, as someone who has stood in the presence of Christ himself, do not put your faith in the plans of proud men. They are blind. They cannot see the puppet masters who whisper in their ears. The real power is in your hands. It's in your quiet room, on your knees. It's in your church, when you gather together and lift your voices. Your prayers are not empty words that vanish into the air. They are weapons. They are light. They are the fuel for the angelic armies that are holding back a tide of darkness you cannot imagine. Jesus sent me back to ask you not to stop. Don't get tired. Don't get distracted by the political theater. Pray for the people of Ukraine, yes, but pray for the leaders of the world. Pray that their eyes would be opened. Pray that God would shatter the pride in their hearts and expose the deception of the enemy. Heaven is real. The spiritual battle is real. And your faith is more powerful than any army on this planet. Jesus is alive, and he hears you. Please, don't ever forget that.